Gentlemen, if you're over 60 and you feel your energy just isn't what it used to be, if getting out of bed each morning has become a quiet struggle, then prepare yourself, because what you're about to hear will completely change your perspective on masculine health. Most men of our generation are making 5 devastating mistakes with their intimate well-being. Mistakes so common, you don't even realize you're blocking your own vitality from the inside out. I'm not talking about complex issues that require surgery. I'm talking about silent habits you're likely practicing right now that are sabotaging your health in a profound way. Let me tell you a 65-year-old man who came to my office utterly defeated. He sat across from me with that look I've seen in so many good men, the look of someone who feels his best days are behind him. "Doctor," he said, his voice cracking, "for over 2 years, I've been waking up 5 or 6 times a night to use the bathroom. My wife can't get a good night's sleep because of me, and I feel like my own body has betrayed me." I looked him in the eye and said something he never expected to hear. "Robert, your body hasn't betrayed you. You have unknowingly abandoned your body." I explained that for years he had fallen into a destructive pattern. He had completely given up any form of personal, intimate practice, convinced that at his age, it was no longer appropriate to care for that part of his well-being. "Every morning," I told him, "I want you to have a handful of pumpkin seeds with dried cranberries, and I want you to reconnect with your body in a mindful, healthy way." Robert looked at me as if I had asked him to perform a magic trick. But 3 weeks later, my phone rang. It was Robert, and his voice was completely different. "Doctor, I don't know how to explain it, but last night I slept for 8 hours straight for the first time in years. My energy is back. My wife is happy, and I feel like a new man." In the next few minutes, you will discover exactly what these critical mistakes are that are affecting millions of men, why they are so detrimental to our health, and most importantly, how few simple adjustments can immediately begin to reverse the damage and restore the vitality you thought was lost forever. This isn't just about your intimate life or performance in the bedroom. This is about a medical truth that could be silently weakening vital circulation throughout your entire body, leaving you feeling less connected to yourself, less energetic, and frankly, less whole as a man. The first devastating mistake that most men make after 60 is an unconscious intimate practice that leads directly to dysfunction. Allow me to share a medical truth I wish more men felt free to discuss. Over my years in practice, I've had countless men in my office, hardworking, proud men, with their eyes cast down, their voices quieted by a silent sense of shame. After building trust, I gently ask them about their habits of self-stimulation. Almost invariably, the same story unfolds. A moment of hesitation, followed by a painful confession. "Doctor, I do it, but I can barely feel anything anymore. I can only get there if I do it in one very specific, mechanical way." The phrase that hits me the hardest is, "It's like my body has forgotten how to feel." What most don't understand is that their method, fast, mechanical, and disconnected from real emotion, has been, without them realizing, training their body for dysfunction. The consequences are silent and devastating. This practice isn't just a bad habit, it's a negative neurological feedback loop. Every time you rush with tense muscles, focusing on intense visual material, and using the exact same method just to get a quick release, you are teaching your brain that pleasure can only come from that one narrow routine. The brain learns these patterns frighteningly well. Over time, your sensitivity plummets. The quality of your intimate responses begins to degrade. You start needing more stimulation, more pressure, and more intense methods just to experience what used to feel natural. It becomes progressively harder to respond with a real partner. Many men end up avoiding intimacy with their spouse because it feels too different, too slow, and too authentic compared to their private habits. And that's where the real damage begins. It affects not only your body, but your emotional well-being and self-esteem. I have seen men fall into spirals of frustration, shame, and even clinical depression, convinced their bodies are irreparably broken. But in most cases, their bodies aren't broken. They have simply been conditioned incorrectly through years of unconscious practice. This can lead to erectile dysfunction, delayed release, or a total inability to reach a natural climax. These are not rare issues. They are silently affecting millions of men of our generation. The tragic irony is that most don't even realize they have unintentionally created this situation. But here is what I need you to take seriously. When you condition your body this way, it's not just your intimate health at risk. Your self-confidence erodes. You lose that emotional connection with yourself. You begin to avoid physical contact and emotional closeness. For many, this sense of disconnection opens the door to something far more serious: deep emotional detachment and even early signs of cognitive decline. The cost isn't confined to the bedroom. It affects your very soul. It changes how you carry yourself. It slowly chips away at the man you see in the mirror. My goal isn't to make you feel guilty, but to awaken you to a critical medical reality. The good news is your body has an incredible capacity to relearn and heal. Your nervous system can be restored, but it requires awareness, patience, and a new approach. One that is slower, more mindful, and connected not just to physical sensation, but to your emotional self. Self-stimulation isn't the enemy, but doing it on autopilot is like driving a car blindfolded. Sooner or later, you will crash, and the repairs could take much longer than you think. Now, here is a medical fact that most men completely miss. While unconscious self-stimulation can cause significant harm, there's another practice that is even more dangerous and more common. The second devastating mistake is total abstinence from intimate well-being after 60. I vividly remember a patient, let's call him Fernando. He was 68, a dignified, reserved man who came to me because he was waking up 5 or 6 times a night to urinate. He described a constant feeling of pressure and a dull, deep ache, which he simply chalked up to getting older. He was not expecting my direct question. When was the last time you experienced a natural release? He blinked as if I had crossed a line. Years, he answered, uncomfortable. I haven't been active at all since my wife passed. I just assumed that at our age, men are supposed to leave that part of life behind. His answer sums up a common and dangerous myth, that after 60, we're supposed to just switch off our reproductive system. But here is what I explained to Fernando and what I now share with you. When you stop having regular releases, your prostate gland doesn't just stop working. It continues to produce prostatic fluid. If that fluid isn't cleared out regularly, it accumulates, creating a kind of traffic jam inside your system. This buildup is precisely what leads to prostate congestion, inflammation, and discomfort. Your prostate is not designed to store fluid indefinitely. When it fills and doesn't empty, it naturally swells and becomes irritated. That's when you start getting frequent urinary urges, a weak stream, constant dripping, and even pain. Most men accept this as an inevitable part of aging. But the medical truth is that it's a blocked system operating under unnecessary pressure. And this is where it gets truly serious. Chronic inflammation of the prostate has been scientifically linked to a higher risk of developing prostate cancer. I am not saying abstinence causes cancer, but let me be medically clear. Regular releases significantly help reduce the inflammatory environment that makes the prostate more vulnerable to serious disease. This isn't a theory. A landmark study from Harvard University followed nearly 30,000 men and found that those who had at least 21 releases per month had a significantly lower risk of developing prostate cancer than those who did not. That is not speculation. It is solid scientific evidence. After our talk, Fernando decided to make a change. He began to reconnect with his body, not for romance, but for his own medical and preventive care. Gradually, his urinary symptoms dramatically improved. The pressure subsided, he started sleeping through the night, and most importantly, that spark of vitality returned to his eyes. He had reconnected with an essential part of himself he thought was lost forever. Ignoring this medical reality doesn't just mean a few bad nights. It can lead to chronic discomfort, unnecessary medications, future surgeries, and yes, a statistically higher risk of prostate cancer, all from the mistaken belief that you're past all that. You wouldn't ignore chest pains or high blood pressure. Don't ignore your prostate health. It is just as vital for your longevity. Now, what if I told you that the emotional shame many men carry, that silent, cultural taboo, actually makes these physical symptoms worse? That's exactly what you'll discover in this next revelation. The third critical mistake is ignoring the fundamental principle of use it or lose it when it comes to erectile function. There's a subtle lie many men accept after 60. If I'm not in an active relationship, I don't need to worry about erections. I've heard this countless times from men who dismiss the importance of maintaining this function because they sincerely believe they're past that stage. But let me share a medical truth. Erectile function isn't just about sex. It is deeply connected to your overall blood flow, nerve health, and total cardiovascular integrity. I remember a patient, Alejandro, a sharp 69-year-old man who hadn't had a natural erection in over 5 years. Not because his body couldn't, but because he felt there was no reason to. His wife had passed, he wasn't looking for a new partner, and he simply assumed that chapter was closed. What Alejandro didn't realize was that his body wasn't just waiting patiently. It was actively shutting down systems. The male anatomy, like any muscle, responds to the biological law of use it or lose it. If you don't regularly stimulate that vascular system, the tissues lose elasticity, blood vessels become less flexible, and oxygen flow to the area decreases. Microscarring and fibrosis, the hardening of normally soft tissue, can begin to form. Over time, even if the desire or opportunity returns, the body can no longer respond. This isn't due to age, it's due to a lack of maintenance. Here's the high medical cost of that neglect. The smooth muscle in the erectile tissue begins to atrophy. The complex network of blood vessels becomes less efficient. Nitric oxide, a chemical absolutely essential for healthy erections, plummets. And this deterioration happens regardless of whether you're trying to be intimate with a partner. It is an unchangeable biological law. If your body doesn't experience regular arousal, it assumes that system is no longer needed. The damage becomes psychological, too. As the body loses its ability to respond, self-confidence weakens and self-esteem crumbles. You feel less connected to your fundamental masculine identity, not because you're old, but because your body no longer reflects the man you once were. This can lead to social isolation, sadness, and even cognitive decline. It's a slow, silent, and completely avoidable process. So what can you do? You can consciously remind your body that this system is still vital. Maintaining regular erections, whether through mindful self-contact or other forms of stimulation, keeps that vital blood flow active, oxygenates the tissues, and preserves essential neural pathways. This isn't just about pleasure. It's about protecting a fundamental part of your physical health and identity. It's a powerful way to tell your body, I'm still here. I'm still connected. I'm still fully alive. The fourth devastating error is how certain modern visual habits are literally rewiring your brain. I want to address a topic rarely discussed openly, especially among men of our generation: consuming adult visual material. I know this can be uncomfortable, but I urge you to listen with an open mind, because this could transform your understanding of your mind and body. I've had men in their 60s and 70s confess they still use this material, not out of addiction, but because it feels like one of the only ways to feel some kind of stimulation. Many are alone, divorced or widowed, and they are seeking a connection, or at least an echo of one. But here is the critical medical point. The material available today is nothing like what you may have known in your youth. It has become a high-speed, hypersensory flood, specifically engineered for instant gratification. The aging brain is not built to handle this intense level of stimulation without consequences. Each time you engage with it, your brain releases a flood of dopamine, the pleasure and reward chemical. But over time, with constant repetition, your brain builds a tolerance. It becomes desensitized to natural, authentic stimuli. Real touch and genuine sensation start to feel dull in comparison. You begin to need more novelty and more intensity just to feel anything. This isn't a preference, it's a profound, measurable change in your neurochemistry. Your brain is literally being rewired. When your brain gets used to this artificial stimulation, your body follows. Erections can become less reliable. Release can become more difficult. In many cases, a condition known as porn-induced erectile dysfunction develops, where man can only respond with the aid of artificial visuals, but not with a real person or even alone without that stimulus. The consequences go beyond the bedroom. I've seen men fall into cycles of deep shame and anxiety, believing they are permanently broken. They never make the connection that the very thing they turned to for relief was slowly stealing their authentic vitality. But here is my most important message. This is not irreversible. You're not permanently damaged. Your brain, even after 60, has an amazing ability to heal and reset. That recovery begins the moment you make a conscious choice to step away from artificial stimuli and allow your body to reconnect with reality, with presence, with authentic sensations, with your own imagination. Some men take a complete 30-day break. Others do it more gradually. The important thing is to start rebuilding the relationship between your nervous system and real pleasure on your own terms. The goal isn't to give up pleasure, but to reclaim it, to make it genuinely yours again. The fifth critical mistake, and perhaps the most destructive, is the shame and silence surrounding personal contact. There's a particular quietness I see in men of our generation. It's in the way they look away when I ask about their intimate health, or how they dismiss the topic with a nervous laugh, saying, "Doctor, that's not for me anymore." But I can see what's behind the words. It's not that they've chosen to stop needing personal contact. It's that society taught them it was no longer dignified or necessary. Let me be medically clear. This silent, culturally imposed shame is one of the most destructive forces for your health. Many of you grew up in a time when any form of personal touch was considered taboo, a sign of weakness. Those negative messages didn't just disappear. They burrowed deep into your psyche, silently shaping the relationship you have with your own body today. The result is a slow, steady withdrawal. You stop touching yourself not because you don't want to, but because you've been conditioned to believe you shouldn't. And over time, that disconnection becomes biologically real. Healthy, regular intimate contact, including mindful self-stimulation, is scientifically proven to support your mental health. It regulates the stress hormone cortisol, boosts dopamine for motivation and pleasure, and stimulates oxytocin for bonding and trust. It improves sleep, stabilizes mood, and even helps maintain cognitive function. But shame short-circuits all of it. Shame keeps your muscles tense, your stress hormones high, and creates cycles of guilt you're no longer even aware of. And chronic stress is directly linked to anxiety, depression, heart disease, a weakened immune system, and even premature dementia. The shame is literally making you sick. It tricks you into believing you're too old to feel whole, but that is a complete lie. You are never too old to touch yourself with tenderness and dignity. You are never too old to feel complete as a man. And this leads to the most dangerous error of all, more destructive than any single physical issue: deep isolation from yourself. Of all the risks men of our generation face, one stands above the rest. More damaging than low testosterone, more insidious than any physical symptom. It is profound emotional and physical isolation. I don't just mean living alone. I'm talking about a deeper silence, a state where you're no longer touched by anyone and you no longer touch yourself, a state where you no longer connect with your own body as something valuable and worthy of care. I remember patient Ernesto, a 76-year-old retired engineer. He confessed that he'd gone over a year without any physical human contact, not a hug, not a friendly hand on the shoulder, nothing. "Doctor," he said, "I don't even remember what it feels like to be touched." Here's the truth no one says out loud. This isolation almost always begins with the relationship you have with your own body. When a man stops touching himself, not just for pleasure, but to simply connect, his brain interprets that as a signal of abandonment. Over time, it becomes a devastating cycle. You touch less, so you feel less, and you gradually convince yourself there's nothing left to feel. That is the true cost of isolation. It's the slow, silent death of your connection with yourself. This kind of deep isolation has been scientifically linked to clinical depression, heart disease, and even a shorter lifespan. Not because of age, but because of self-abandonment. This isn't about blame or shame. Life changes, losses happen. But what does not have to happen, what is completely avoidable, is total surrender. The conscious act of touching yourself, whether with intimate or simply therapeutic intention, isn't about vanity. It's about actively reclaiming your body as your own. It's about sending a powerful message to your brain, your heart, and your entire nervous system. I am still here. I am present. I still have value, and I still want to feel completely alive. I have watched men reclaim extraordinary vitality simply by giving themselves permission to reconnect, to break that self-imposed silence. When they do, their posture changes. Their voice regains its strength. That inner spark, that fundamental vitality, begins to shine in their eyes again. Friends, if you have made it this far with me, if any of this medical information has resonated with your personal experience, then what comes next could be the most transformative part of our entire conversation. Because now that you know these fundamental medical truths, I'm going to share with you the exact protocol I use with my own patients. A simple yet extraordinarily powerful daily routine designed specifically to reconnect your body, restore your natural sensitivity, and give your system back everything that time and silence have tried to take away. And I want you to know that Robert, the man I told you about at the beginning, didn't just get his energy back. 6 months after starting this protocol, he called to tell me that he had